And welcome back, fourth and long fans. It's your footy correspondent, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another AFLW round review. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Pride Round this round. And as you can see by my lovely co host video and myself, celebrating Pride is something we both super enjoy. But I must introduce my co host today, and that is Miss Nikki Claire. Like previous host, Ali Collette, a massive Melbourne Demons fan. Nikki, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. It is a early Wednesday morning, 5:07 a.m. as we speak. So if I'm a little bit quieter than normal, that is because my partner is in the other room sleeping and I don't want to wake her up. So it will be a little bit more of morning radio, shall we say, the AM radio, just to talk deep voice by yours truly here. But let's get started. We went through round eight, as we said, it's Pride round. It was Pride round. It was fantastic. The jerseys were spectacular. Really quick, Nikki, thoughts on round eight?
Round eight, Pride round, one of my favorite rounds of the whole AFLW season. It was spectacular watching all the players run out in their Pride jumpers, and every single club was represented this time around, which was fantastic. And some of the results in the games were reflective of just how good the competition is at the moment.
Yeah, 100% agree. I'm going to test you here. I'm going to throw you a little bit of curveball. Take Melbourne's jumper off the table. What was the best of the other 17 Pride jumpers?
Port Adelaide, really like the Port Adelaide jumper.
Yeah, I thought they were fantastic, and conveniently, my
Yeah,
my my host from last round, who we previewed it, was a huge Port fan, and she absolutely thought it was fantastic. So let's
yeah.
celebrate Pride. Let's go through this. We have 9 games to talk about. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say it. We have 9 games of footy to talk about. One of my favorite things. Let's jump right into it. First game of the round sees the Richmond Tigers get a 10-point win over Carlton. Nikki, this Tigers team is on a roll right now, and this is my smoky for the team I would be the most terrified to play come finals time.
Yep, they've definitely hit their strides this season, and they've gelled really well. So, and they've been managing to do get a lot of wins up without their captain, Katie Brennan. So having her back in the side is a real bonus. But they've learned how to shut down the opposition and prevent them from scoring. And as the season's gotten on, they've improved with being able to hold out games. So yeah, it was a pretty good comeback. I think they were down a few goals to come back and win by
Mhm.
10 points. So, yeah, no, it was a good result for them. But yeah, definitely one to watch. And
Yeah.
my physio actually is Megan Kiley, who plays for Richmond. So I've been keeping a close eye on the Tigers this season, and yeah, they're doing really, really well.
Yeah, they've been my snow. They've been my smoky most of the season. I said going into this year, I said I think the acquisition of Grace Egan only makes the
Yep.
Richmond Tigers midfield that much better because Grace is that defensive solid person. Conti and McKenzie are absolutely elite players with footy in
Yep.
hand. I mean, Mon Conti's so smooth, so silky. She finds her way into space. It's absolutely fantastic. And Courtney Wakefield, absolute gun in this game. I think she kicks 4 goals in this game. So again,
Yep.
Tigers continuing with their red hot form. Is this the elite of the competition? No. I mean, Carlton, again, I think they're still struggling. They're still kind of finding their way. Mim Hill with another fantastic game as per usual. She's become a very consistent midfielder for that. Abby McKay again as well. But again, Richmond, absolutely fantastic. Another big win here. So continuing red hot form for the Tigers. There we jump to what many people would say is game of the round, the one everybody talked about. Brisbane 22-point winners at Metricon Stadium. I mean, what can you say? This Lions team, what poison do you want to take when you play them? Because even their midfielders are starting to get goals now.
Yep, yep. There's a lot to love about the Lions, and I said that they were the team to beat this season. As much as I love my D's, I thought the Lions have a super gel team just as much as the D's do. But you watch the way that they took apart Adelaide through their midfield and shut down their forward flurries, it was just testament to how much the team has got strength all over the ground. And they have some superstars up forward. That firepower to just get a score on the board, you just watch in awe. I sit there a lot and watch a lot of the players and think they'd look really good in the Demons jumper. So
Forever recruiting, right? Forever recruiting. Yeah.
absolutely, always on the lookout. So
Yeah.
yes, no, very much liking Ola O'Dwyer's season this season. So she's continued on her good form from season 6, which is good to see.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I mean, Ali Alexander, Sophie Conway, that midfield, Emily Bates, like it has been very much by committee this year. It hasn't just been the Emily Bates show with cast. It's
Yep,
been their entire the forward line again. It's like who do you take? Because if you take off one, some of the others get out of control. And then Kate Lutkins
yep,
coming back from her knee injury has just solidified this Brisbane's defense that much better. I mean, the Crows, great
absolutely.
performances. I mean, Abity Marinoff and Ann Hatchard again, they put up stats. Chelsea Randall, again, you could put her anywhere on the ground and she's going to be successful. Again, she does really well in this game as well. But I almost sit here and I go, should Adelaide be a little concerned because this is a loss to both the other two kind of, shall we say, flying contenders with Brisbane and Melbourne both getting the wood on Adelaide here. That if you're in the Adelaide camp a little bit, I think are there concerns gathering up? We'll discuss this topic a little bit later on in the episode, but it's something I thought about after this game was are people in Crows land maybe a little concerned now that the Crows are kind of becoming the third team in a 3-team flag contendership discussion. So we jump to the next game. North v Port Adelaide. North get the 25-point win, but Port took it to Adelaide for the first part of this game. You kind of had the expansion second half fade, but Port, they did themselves no disservice in this game, playing a very good North team, very competitive for most.
Yeah, that was a really hot contested first half. I think it was great having Gemma Houghton back in the side for Port. She brings a lot of pressure and a lot of firepower up forward. So I think that's what Port have been lacking, not having her in the side with her injury, unfortunately. But yeah, it seems to be they're just getting better each week, and being an expansion side, they'll continue to get better. And a lot of teams, I think, now are starting to work out how to shut down North. It's just that North have so many superstars in their side that the cream rises to the top, and they just come home with the win in the end. So it was good to watch.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is seeing Emma King primarily forward. She's not as much in
Yep.
the ruck as she has been years before, which I think has been a good thing for her because I think sometimes she was running out of steam late in the game. And so I think she wasn't as effective ruck wise. So moving her forward, getting 50%, 40% ruck time, even less, maybe even 30% ruck time, I think has been beneficial for her because I think she's fresher come
Mm.
the end of the game and she becomes that much deadly a target. She's already one of the tallest people in the competition, so it's incredibly difficult to spoil her. But the fact
Yep.
that now that Rennie can go in and play that ruck role, I said I think really helps out North because it gives it that one more dangerous weapon late in games. And again, Jazzy Garner, you legend, you superstar, continuing to prove why she's has to be one of the best in the entire competition. Emma Carney's move to
Yeah.
the halfback line has been just absolutely perfect for North, giving that stable, smart head, great ball delivery out of the back line. So again, North, they're just they're just this short of being in that comments of
Yep.
the top four, shall we say? But we'll have to see. This is a North team on their day can be very good. The only concern I
Yep.
have is the behinds. 12 behinds. This could have been a much bigger score margin if they could find the center sticks. I know it's not as easy as sitting on the sidelines, people, but it has to be something that has to be addressed. That this behind, that's way too many behinds. You're getting scores, but you're not getting damaging scores. So we'll have to see how that is addressed. The next game we move to, for some weird reason, over the last couple of days, has taken on a massive controversy. I got to watch this game
Mm.
live at USAFL Nationals for those that have been keeping track of it. And boy, was I proud to be a Swans member because they gave Essendon everything they could. They just fall short. We'll discuss why here in just a little bit. Thoughts on this game? This was an absolute dandy between these two sides of Essendon and Sydney. 4-point win by the Bombers.
Yeah, so we talked about the Lions and the Crows match being the match of the round. I think this one, aside from the controversy, was probably the match of the round for me. Just watching two teams that are trying to find their feet in the competition and they're just going at it solidly and watching them make ground. You really like the way that Sydney got their game plan together finally. They've been unlucky a few times this season, and I actually thought this time they had it won, but not to be, unfortunately, which is a shame. It was pretty heartbreaking for all of them. And I some of the D's girls who aren't at the D's anymore, Brenna Tarrant's gone to Sydney, so I was checking in to make sure that how they were going, how she was going after the game. And yeah, no, it was good. It was whilst it was disappointing, I think everyone could see the development in that game was huge, and it really showed. So yeah, no, you should be very proud as a Sydney supporter.
Well, anybody that's listening to this episode, every round, no matter what the score, I am the over optimistic, very, very happy Swans fan. You have no idea how hard I was barracking in the last 5 minutes for this Swans team. They did
uh,
everything I've asked. They've continued to progress. They continue to play better. Seeing Sophia Hurley and Cynthia Hamilton and Montana Ham, the top three girls from the draft this year, all have fantastic games in this one. Only put a bigger smile on my face. Zoe Hurl getting a goal in her AFLW debut. Absolutely fantastic. Brianna Tarrant has been a marvel for us in the back. She's constantly under pressure. She's so calm when she gets the footy in hand. She knows what she's doing. I'm so happy to have her. I think she's been fantastic. So, as I've told Ali a few times in messages, I'm so happy to have her. I think she has been a wonder because she's been a great kind of mentor for Ella Heads, who I think is a youngster who I think has a bright
yeah,
future in AFLW for a 19-year
yeah,
old from Sydney. And she's playing this well early. Some decision makings, but she'll learn from that. So I think this is a Swans team that is progressing far, a little bit, even almost a little bit faster than I was expecting. Yes, they've had their duds, but it's going to happen. Okay. I
yeah.
came into this season with no alternative realities on Sydney making finals. And I went, I want to see progression each week. And I'm starting to see it each and every week, and sometimes in leaps and bounds. I don't like going here. I hate talking about umpire stuff ups, but this has to be the stuff up of a lifetime as the controversy has come out. The AFL has admitted this goal judge completely missed it. But I'm not just going to put it on the goal judge. I'm going to put it on the sideline. I'm going to put it on the boundaries judges as well, because there were two of them there and both of them missed it. Is this frustrating as an AFLW fan, not just a Melbourne fan, but AFLW fan? Sometimes the umpiring, I think, is affecting outcomes, and it is changing the ladder more than it should.
Yep. Actually, I agree. I think there's a lot more work is needed to be done by the AFL to get the umpiring standard up to AFLW standard. We understand that mistakes happen, and no one's perfect, but you see the footage from behind the goals that has been shared this week, and there's really no excuse for missing something that simple. I'm not an umpire, and I have no intent. Well, I used to be a boundary umpire as a kid, but it's not an easy job, and we totally get that. But there's a lot. I go to watch a lot of the games, and you see the umpires, and you understand that they're still learning, which is a concern. They should be, when they get to this level, they should be already ready to go. And a lot of their positioning, especially with three umpires, field umpires out on the ground, they're still struggling with their positioning and not in right sides of the contest a lot of the times, and a lot of things are missed. So yeah, it's frustrating that we preach it, especially with the juniors that I coach, that umpiring decisions don't affect the outcome of a game, because you should be doing what you can to lead at all times. But it comes down to scenarios like this, and it's definitely affected the outcome. On the other hand, though, there was discussions that there was a touched goal paid to Sydney that Essendon, well, a goal that was paid that Essendon believe was touched. So, there's both sides to the story, but
Mm-hmm.
in this case, though, there is evidence, and it's also proof that if they've got the technology for the AFL, you can't tell me that they can't set it up for the AFLW. They're wanting it to be a professional league, then surely they have to give the competition the same perks that they do in the men's competition.
And I 100% agree. And I've heard this argument, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this as somebody that is a diehard AFLW, is with the fact that there are more country grounds, more suburban grounds being used. That I think the oft used argument to that is well, they don't have the technology there like they have at Marvel, at the MCG, at the SCG, at the GABA, and all that. So, and I 100% understand, but adjust it. You don't have to have a super
Mm,
HD camera. Just make sure there's a camera on the
both
goalposts.
both networks, so it's Fox Footy and Channel 7,
Mm-hmm.
both show the men's and the women's competition. You can't tell me they can't get the cameras like they do ready for the women's competition as well. It just shows you that it's more the media that aren't fully engaged in the women's competition as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to it being the AFL.
Okay.
So,
And
and that stands out a lot,
no,
which
and
is
I
something you'll notice I'm very vocal about on the socials too.
absolutely no problem. And I 100% agree with you. I think there's not a there is a way you can set up cameras to
Hmm.
make it as equal as possible. So I'm 100% with you. I wanted to go to that discussion point. And the one I feel the most horrible for is Molly Eastman, because you could tell she knew it was through. She knew it was a goal. And
Yep.
to see her, the devastation on her face when she realized it was only called a behind, like that was the part that was hard for me, because you
Yep.
get you get to know the girls through social media or through the team websites, and to see her absolutely gutted after that call went through, I just felt horrible for her, because she
Yeah.
had worked so hard, and as a defender you don't get many shots on goal, so for her to get a shot on
No.
goal and to kick it and then to have it taken away almost cruelly was devastating for me. And it was like you just want to reach through the TV and give her a hug, because you just felt so horrible.
Yeah.
So again,
Yep.
the Swans will grow from this, but it is very frustrating that a potential first ever win was kind of snatched away in a way that is almost heartless, shall we say, in some situations. So let's not focus on that too much. Unfortunately, even as a Swans fan, I hate. I've said many times on the podcast, I hate blaming the umpire for things. I'm a weird fan. I don't like focusing on an umpire
Yep.
decision, but it had to be addressed because of the AFL's statement a few days ago. So jump to the next game as Geelong go out and Geelong get a big win over the West Coast Eagles by 9, 34-25. The Cats again continuing to play strong. Georgie Prespark is back, continuing to get wins. The only concern I have is that this game, a lot like the North game, that 10 behinds, this was an opportunity missed to get a nice percentage boost for the Cats.
Yeah, no, it was a good game to watch. It was a highly contested game, and I think West Coast aren't the pushover team this season, like many may have suggested that they were last season. In Geelong's defence, I'm going to jump in and defend them here. They weren't playing at their own home ground; they're playing at Icon Park, which not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of their players will be familiar with. So Icon Park is, if you know the ground, you can play it well. But even Carlton, that's their home ground, and they struggle to kick straight half the time. So, shots on goal are not as easy as they sound. I play up forward, and I'm not always hitting it through the big sticks. So, yeah, no, definitely. But just being able to apply pressure and get score on the board, which then stops the opposition from getting a score on the board. It's how you win the game is playing that way. But having Georgie Sparkers back in that side really boosts their pressure around the ground. And really loving Meg McDonald's run from the back line. She's a real leader, natural leader. So she's been so good for the Cats, even for the last couple of seasons. But to see her and the team getting the success is great to see.
And the scary part is Georgie Pasparkas comes back and it moves Nina Morris, lets her get out in space. It was
Yep,
already a very good Geelong team when Georgie was even on the sidelines for her suspension. But you add Georgie to this, and it's just that's even scarier in midfield because you don't know
yep,
Amy McDonald, Nina Morris, and Georgie Pasparkas, Mecca Webster. Holy, I mean, who do you take? Who do you stop? Because if you stop the other one,
yep,
one of the others gets off the chain. So again, this is a Cats team, a lot like Richmond, that you almost don't want to face in the finals because you don't know. I mean, they're going to be tough. They are
yeah,
going to be a difficult out. So I I know finals, we still have a couple more rounds until finals, but I'm salivating at some of these matchups because I think some of these teams, the Richmonds, the Geelongs, the Western Bulldogs, if you're a top team, you don't want to face them because if you get them on their day, they're a difficult
yep,
defeat.
yeah,
So here we go.
yeah.
I'll let you have it. Have your humble brag. Here you go. Your D's go up to Metricon Stadium, and as any wrestling fan would know, handeth the smacketh down to the Suns 58-9. A very impressive win without Lauren Pierce, without some of their stars. I mean, again, humble brag here, Nikki. Your D's 58 points. Taylor Harris again with another fantastic game up forward.
Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion that Melbourne had five of their top players out. Loz unfortunately missed out with the concussion protocol after her head clash with Paxi the week before. And Sinead Goldrick didn't fly up, and we're missing Maddie Gay and also Geordie Ivy. I'm not going to call favorites here; they're all my favorites. But yeah, so it was it was a great match to watch because I think it proves that Melbourne's program shows the depth that they yeah, no, it's been exciting to watch them play. And I'm not gonna lie, I've said it on the socials that getting a win in the D's jumper is exciting at the best of times, but this time around it was a lot more special, being Daisy's 50th match, and also the group wearing the pride jumper that was designed by a fellow Ruby D and Alejandro. So yeah, no, I'm not gonna brag too much about how well they're playing. I think it speaks for themselves. But I will do a shout out to Liv Purcell and Eliza West and Tyler Hanks carving it up in the middle for us at the moment.
Yeah, your midfield is absolutely scary, and there's still so much depth there, and then the fact that you did, yeah, no Lauren, no more Lauren Pierce, no Maddie Gay. So it's the scary thing about this D team is they are so deep. They are
Yep.
very talented. They're very strong. They're still. I know Brisbane went to Casey earlier this year and won. I still think the D's are my flag favorite right now. They really are. I just think their
Mm,
defensive structure. They had no Taylor Harris in that first round game, and for me, that's a massive change. That changes the structure of
yep.
Melbourne big time for me. So I think Harris, if they play Brisbane later in the year, as long as Harris is in, I think maybe the result changes a little bit. So we may
Yep.
not know. Let's see how the finals play out. But I'm really bullish on the D's with a chance to win a premiership this year because I think when every piston is firing, they're very difficult to stop. Even
Yep.
with a Brisbane team that's very solid, this is a very scary D's team at the time. So we jump to it. Last three games of the round, see a couple of crackers and one not so much. We jump to it. Dogs versus Saints. A 15-point win. Again, another one of those high behind ones, but the doggies bounce back after a couple of iffy games there. And again, a dogs team, very young, very talented, gets the win. Ellie Blackburn again, another one of the Ellie Blackburn performances that we are so used to. And the Saints they've kind of fallen off a cliff after a good start to the season.
Yeah, this game, yeah, we wasn't sure which way this game was going to go. Bit biased when it comes to the Saints because I'm good mates with Bianca Jacobson, so always looking out to see how they're going, and I get to quite a few Saints games. But yeah, credit to the doggies. They finally bounced back. I think the game before was obviously the game against Melbourne, and we took them apart down at Casey. So it can be a bit of a kick to the gut to lose in the way that they did. So for them to come back, and I think they played up in Ballarat, so the conditions up there with the rain that we'd had during the week, I think was playing on a lot of people's minds as well. But they brought their A game that day, and I think the Saints led there for a bit. So it was another upset was on the cards, but yeah, like as you said, Ellie Blackburn, she drags that team and she gets them firing. So I think every team needs a player like Ellie Blackburn who just knows how to flick the switch and get the best out of the players around her. So, and of course, I adore Rocky Cranston. So happy
Hmm.
for her to get the win. So yeah, and it was an interesting game to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, in the improvement of Alice Edwards and the Rock, I think has helped Celine Moody a little bit, a little bit like
Absolutely.
a little bit like Emma King. It's Alice Edwards stepping in, being able to take away the ruck, letting Celine Moody be that tall forward. She can ruck
Mm,
occasionally, but she is primarily forward, which then it's a defensive matchup because there aren't too many defenders at her height and her strength and size that it is very difficult to defend. So I think Alice Edwards has been an incredible pickup for the doggies this year. I mean, I think she leads the league in hitouts to advantage. So again, the doggies fans are absolutely loving Alice Edwards. So again, the
yeah,
doggies a team. I'm very interested to see who they get in the finals and how they match up because they will be a tough one. It will be a tough one. So this one,
absolutely.
this one by score could be talked as game of the round in a game that this is the only one I missed of my tipping. This is the only one I missed. I had tipped Hawthorne. I liked their mojo the way they were going. GWS pips Hawthorne by one, 34-33. Incredible game. I was
Oh
on
yes.
the edge of my seat at the end of this one, even as a Swans fan. I loved this game. I thought this game was fantastic. Again, the Hawks, Beck Goddard has waved that magic wand over this Hawks team from a team that I think some people were worried after Tamara Luke went down and Stevenson went down that this team was going to kind of nosedive the rest of the season. And she's waved that magic wand and poof, look at how well this Hawks team is playing.
Yeah.
They fall just a little bit short to GWS, who just had a little bit too much experience in the midfield and they did just enough to win. But I have to tip my cap, Beck Goddard. You have done yeoman's work with this Hawks team because they are so much more competitive than they were earlier in the season.
Yeah, no, it's definitely I'm not sure what spell Beck Goddard casts over the playing group that she coaches, but whatever it is that she's doing to them, it's incredible. And I think she's a personable coach, and she knows how to get the best out of her players. That we saw a few weeks ago, she gave the Hawks an absolute burst against the Swans, and they really responded really well. So. But again, being one of the expansion teams, they're starting to hit their strides and work together as a team. And yeah, it was just a real, just hard fought this match. Like GWS haven't had the best season. They would have been hoping to have had more success this season. I think coming in with a new coach and renewed energy, but unfortunately, it hasn't panned out that way. But they kept at it. They didn't drop their heads. And I mean, how do you stop a force like Cora Staunton? Really, she's
Mm.
just one player that I could watch play all day, every day. Another player I also say would look good in a D's jumper, just quietly. But it's really good to see, like when teams are struggling, and as Hawthorn and GWS have, to watch them just give it their absolute everything just to get that outcome. And it was so frantic when scores were level. then Hawthorn hit the lead, and then GWS got that score back to draw level. And it's like, which way is this going to go? Is it going to end in a draw? And then just, yeah, unfortunately, the Bet Goddard Magic just couldn't get that point going their way. So yeah, that was a ripper game.
Yeah, the one time a behind is the winning score, which I it was very interesting on the call. The fact that it was almost anticlimactic when the behind was kicked, and like they're gonna win by one. Like you can tell,
Yeah, point.
the announcers were even like, okay, like that's how we're gonna end this game. So you almost got the anticlimactic, but it was again a win for GWS. Again, their
yeah,
injury list, I feel horrible. Tate Mackerel goes down. Some of the injuries that they've lost
yeah,
this year have really, I think, have hurt them. They've been in big places that I think they've just not really been able to um, ad-
yeah,
adapt from as well as some other teams with injuries this season. So, but again,
yeah.
absolute cracker,
They'll be
absolute cracker.
they'll come back. They'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you this purely from a coaching point of view. I always say this to my juniors when I coach, when they get frustrated at missing shots on goal. Every point counts. And
Hmm.
this result is testament to that.
Yep.
So
$100.
too downhearted if you don't get the goal, because yeah, it's the point that counts in the end. So
Won a game this weekend by two, so I know the
there
exact
you
thing.
go.
We won a game. We won our semifinal game by 2 points. So I know
Yeah.
exactly. I know exactly. Our preliminary final to those in Australia. It was a preliminary final to those in Australia.
Preliminary.
Yeah. Well, I have to do that sometimes because for us, what you call preliminary, we call a semifinal. So it's like when I first got into the sport, I had to get the lingo on which one is which, especially come finals time, to explain it. Like when we play over here, explain it to where it makes sense to you, to it makes sense to Australians, because sometimes we get gatekeepers when I go, if I say semifinal to them, they're like, what are you talking about? I said preliminary final. Oh, that makes sense. So it really helps. Like I do it the same thing with temperature. Like if it's a certain degree, I will intentionally do Celsius to let friends of mine in Australia know, because it's the trans. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
sometimes math is not always everybody's strong suit. So it's just I try to I simplify it as
Definitely
much
not mine. I can
as
confirm that's not
I.
mine either.
All right, well, we'll get through it. Last game of the round, unfortunately, was a little bit of a clunker. The anticlimactic, a really good round of footy, and again, we get another clunker again. Fremantle's season, shall we say, how to do this as nicely as possible. It's kind of its ugly season continues as the
Mm,
Collingwood Magpies come out west and get a 29-point win, 32-3. Unfortunately, no goal scorers for Fremantle here. Again, Fremantle's difficult season, shall we say, continues. But the Pies, again, just they keep rolling on. Another win,
mm,
continuing to stay up in that top part of the ladder here. Again, they're just so solid. They're deep, surprisingly, in the midfield without Bree Davy and Britt Benici, which is scary to think next year you get those two back with the depth that they have kind of developed in their
yep.
absence this year. The Pies are a team. I'm not going to say they're out. They don't have a chance. I mean, anything can happen come finals time, but I almost salivate for next year for this Pies team, because they could be an absolute nightmare in the midfield with those two
Oh yeah.
superstars coming back next year.
Yep, absolutely. This was the only tip I got wrong this round. So I went out on a limb, and I
And got
thought
Fremantle.
Frio have been shutting down a few teams, and they did it
Hmm.
to us. Like it took us until the last quarter to get that win. So I yeah, went out on a limb and thought, oh, you know what, they might just get the Pies this week. And then I watched the game going, it's not going to plan. So I'd imagine that's exactly how the Frio coaches were going. But they're really missing their firepower in the Antonios this
Hmm.
season. You know, it's unfortunate they lost Gemma Houghton, sorry, to, you know, Port, the expansion team, and they've had a few of their big personnel go. But yeah, they've really struggled to be able to fill in for the players that they're missing at the moment. But you are so right with Collingwood, like their depth and just the way they go about their game. Yeah, going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially Brie Davy. We know what a superstar and just a champion player that she is. So having her come back into the lineup next season. But I'm really liking the move of Ash Brazel up forward.
Hmm.
That I've always argued that a lot of the defenders become the best forwards if they're thrown up forward because they know how to protect the ball space and get that ball at all costs.
Hmm.
So yeah, they just love watching them, and also releasing Sabrina Frederick into the ruck a lot more, giving her more room to roam around and get her hands on the ball. She kicked two back-to-back goals, I think,
Hmm.
in the space of a couple of minutes, and yeah, it's good to see her impacting the scoreboard. So yeah, no, they're looking really well out there, those players.
Yeah, they're gonna be in again. I'm fascinated for finals because there are some teams that may not be in the top three that I think they're going to be nightmare matchups for even the top three teams because they're playing really good footy. So again,
Yes.
these last two rounds are going to be fascinating to watch this ladder because I think the matchups with I think the straight 8, 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5 matchups, it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out because I think there's a
Yeah,
potential for some upsets early that I think could throw the bracket a little bit on its head
absolutely.
early. So I don't want finals to come because then that means we're closer to the end of the season. But I am absolutely just on edge to see how this goes because there's going to be some absolute dandies in the first round of
Absolutely,
this
yeah.
finals that are just going to be. I mean, they're going to be grab your popcorn and have fun watching the footy because it's going to be
Yeah.
fantastic. So that is it for the 9 games of the review. Again, a fantastic round of footy. Again, showing the pride jumpers. All of them were fantastic. I think it was very good. And West Coast had a pride jumper this year. Thank you, West Coast. Appreciate you
Yes.
joining the club.
Yes.
Not to kick you a little bit, but we have to be sure that you participate in what I think is an absolutely amazing, fantastic round of footy. So we jump to burning questions, ladies and gentlemen. These are some questions that have been mulling around in my head. Yes, I had a little bit of a shorter weekend with a crazy footy weekend. I mean, I was footy this entire weekend. So this was fun for me. So I have a D's fan here. So I'm gonna ask the question: is this the year the D's finally get this elusive flag?
Yes. Absolutely. I've been going to watch them train, and you can see the progress that they made. I know it's only what the beginning of the year to the end of the year, but just watching the group and how they are in season seven, you can definitely see that they're a solid unit. So, we're missing a few, unfortunately, through injury with Eliza McNamara and Gabby Colvin, both out for the season with their respective injuries. But I think their input into getting around the girls and having Eliza on the bench is really a bonus for the girls because it's like having an extra player out there. She may not be running around getting the ball, Eliza, but she's definitely firing them up. So
Mm-hmm.
no, yeah, I think this is it. I get goosebumps thinking about it, but yeah, I think this is their time.
Okay, a real quick bonus one to go off of that. Do you think the fact that the season was moved up has been beneficial for this D's team because they haven't had a full off season to let the loss in the grand final burn?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think it's been for the entire competition though a bit of a shift in how they prepare for games too. So they're not no longer preparing to have ice vests and playing in 30 to 40-degree heat
Hmm.
here. Instead, they're playing in almost football made conditions, and yeah, it's definitely I think the shorter break means that they can't dwell on it too much, and it's kept the fire in the belly after the grand final loss from season six.
Yep, I'm with you on that. I think it has really pushed this D's team. I think if this was a full off season, it'd have been interesting to see how they handle it. But the fact that they're right
Mm,
back into it, I think helps them a little bit. So I think it's been
absolutely.
surprisingly, it's one of those where it's some people would say, well, it's caused more injuries. Yes, but I think it's made it fiercer. Like I've noticed there's a lot of girls, a lot of ladies going in with their heads over the ball, hip and shouldering. And I've said this a few episodes, and I want you to hear this, Nikki. I almost think the women go harder at the footy than the men sometimes. Legitimately.
Oh,
Like I,
100%.
I think the women go in
100%.
harder because They have to. They know that they have to, and I absolutely
Yeah.
love it. And I called a few games up here at the States, and I specifically said that in a couple of calls. I said sometimes I believe the women go harder at the footy than the men do, and that is not hyperbole. That is I what I see, I think is fantastic. I think it's great for the game because the physicality it has just been fantastic. Absolutely love it. So we jump from D Central. Let's put on our coaches hat. Let's put on our coaches hat here, Nikki, for both you and I. Should
Yes.
Adelaide be concerned that they are behind the top two teams with another loss late in this season?
No, not really. They're a force to be reckoned with, and it's something that I've discussed with Ali a lot. You know, ideally, every team would love to go through the entire season having a perfect season and not lose any games. But losses can be beneficial because it helps to focus on points that you need to work on that you don't necessarily pick up when
Mm-hmm.
you get the win because you think it's going to plan. With Adelaide, I think I'd be more concerned with the injury to Chelsea Randall more than anything. She's such an important player to that team. Like the commentators were saying during the broadcast that you can put her at any position on the ground and you just know she's going to get the job done. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's more of a concern for them at the moment. They've still got the firepower to get those wins. It's just again they just probably had an off night, just like where Melbourne had an off night against Brisbane for their only loss so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm
I
one.
don't think anyone picked Brisbane losing to Richmond either. So
Oh.
there
But it's been great
you
for the
go.
competition. I said that at the time.
Absolutely.
I think it's been
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic because I think many an expert probably went in with the same thought process that I had, that it was Adelaide, Brisbane, and Melbourne were the three teams going to fight for the flag, and everybody else was basically going to fight to compete in the finals. I said the other three were going to fight for the flag. The other five were going to be in the make up numbers, basically. And I don't mean that in like a cruel way. I mean that it's the reality. I mean, the way Adelaide,
Mm,
Brisbane, and Melbourne are built, it is very difficult to beat them if they're on. Like they have to be
yeah.
very off. And Brisbane at the day was off. Adelaide for in both of their losses, you can tell that there was something not right 100% with them. And I don't mean to say this, and I don't mean to besmirch it, but sometimes I think Ebony Marinoff and Ed Hatchard get a lot of praise, but I think they've become a little bit at times accumulators. They get a lot of disposal, but do they make as much damage on the scoreboard or in the game as they do if they maybe had a few less disposals but are kicking a goal, kicking a behind, having score involvement? Sometimes I think you get 40 disposals, but if you get 40 disposals but you don't, but your meters gained is 200, I mean, what
Mm.
really did you do?
Well, it depends on where they're getting their possessions.
Mm-hmm.
Ebony's a midfielder, so she gets a lot of the ball in defence. We know how good a tackler she is, and stuff. And sometimes their role isn't to get a score on the board. Their role is to set up scores on the board. So I think we have to take a step back and remember that as much as we love, I mean, I'd love for Sinead Goldrick to run from the back line and kick goal of the year. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
convinced that she's going to do it. But yeah, I think everyone's got a role to play. And as long as they're feeding the ball up forward, then it's then on to the forwards to lock the ball in and get that score on the board, which Adelaide normally do very well. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
thumped, who did they thump? GWS
Mm-hmm.
a few rounds ago. So yeah, I think you can't expect them to be up and about every week, and we want to knuckle down and have a look at if they're getting 30 to 40 possessions, what is their percentage of hitting a target. If it's down around 30 to 40%, then you say, yep, probably, then they have to be doing something. But if it's up over 60 to 70%, then they're doing their job on the day.
Mm-hmm. 100% agree there. So now that we've talked about Adelaide, let's just focus on round eight, and this can be person or team. Who do you think had the best performance this round?
Um, oof, tough question. Um,
I'll give
I'm gonna
I'll give you
go.
mine, and it'll make you smile. I think Melbourne. I think with the injury list that they had, not having some of
Yeah.
their top, to go up to the Gold Coast and to beat a Gold Coast team that I think has been playing pretty well. I think
Yeah.
they've had their moments, but I think they've been playing pretty good footy over the last few weeks. I think Melbourne, that was an impressive win to go up there and to dominate a young team, a very good team at times.
Mm.
For Lauren Bella to not have like that fantastic ruck game against what would many people would call a secondary ruck. Um, you got to for me it's Melbourne. I think they had the best performance um just overall because it was a very
Yeah.
impressive win.
Yeah, it was a four quarter effort from them, and I know that it's something that they've been working really hard on to be consistent over four quarters. Yeah, I was trying not to be biased there and say Melbourne, but I I still can't go past like Melbourne's midfield and just the pressure that they bring all around the ground. You know, we have Liv Purcell, we have Eliza West and Tyler Hanks, but then we've got Lily Mithen and we've got Kate Hoare who can swap from being up forward to being on the ball, and Sarah Lampard on a wing was brilliant on Saturday night. So she, I think, replaced Casey Sheriff, who was another player who didn't play through injury this
Hmm.
week. So the ability to throw the magnets around and put players in positions that they don't generally play is also a testament to how well the program's going. That, you know, we need someone to put their hand up and fill in a spot, and they do it with the greatest of ease. Well, at least so how it looks out there anyway. But
Hmm.
yeah, most definitely. So I'll jump on your coattails and go, yep, definitely my D's were the the
And Eden
highlights.
Zanka finding goals too. Like for her, like
Yes.
I mean, she is your kind of your utility knife. I mean, she's a lot one of those that you can stick anywhere on the ground. Like a little like Chelsea Randall may not have as big a profile, but Eden Zanka, she can go forward, she can play in the ruck, she can play in the
Yep.
midfield, she can play back. So like for her to find the goal sticks and be able to be another goal scorer besides Taylor Harris
Mm.
and Daisy
Yep.
Pierce is I mean, she's a wonder. Like she's one of those. Like I'll pull a you, Nikki. Like I would love to nip her and bring her to Sydney because I think she would be such a great addition to the Swans because you can put her anywhere on the ground and I think she's going to be successful there. So yep, I kind of thought you may jump on my caravan there, but it was one of those I had to because for me that was one of the most impressed that was one of the most impressive games. I mean, some of the games I tipped 8 of the 9, but I really wasn't. I can't say that GWS was my favorite when the one that I missed, so that's why I kind of went there. So we go to it.
Yeah.
I noticed this a lot in the men's season this year that Joey Montagna kept saying 7 or 8 rounds into the season is the eight set, and I can say it in the women's is the eight set, or can Gold Coast find a way in?
Oh, who have they got? That's the question.
Well, after the
Let
D's,
me.
I think their next 2 rounds are a little less effective. The issue that they run into is that they're 4 points back. They are 17 percentage points back of the Doggies. And I believe the
Yep.
Doggies' last 2 matches are against teams that they should win. The Doggies' next 2 matchups are the West Coast Eagles and
Yep.
the love of the internet, Carlton Blues.
They're in.
So if I look at that right now,
Yep.
I'll kind of answer my own question here. I
You
don't
should
see how
say.
I don't see how the Suns get in. Yes, the Suns have
Yeah.
GWS and they have Carlton. So Carlton
Brit.
could play the ultimate spoiler for both of these teams if they were to
Yes.
somehow find a way to get an upset. And of the 2 teams that that are there, I think Gold Coast is the most susceptible to Carlton knocking them off. I think the Doggies have a little too much firepower, and when you've got Ellie Blackburn, Mimi Hill, that's going to be fantastic. I'd love to see them head to head matchup. I think that'd be great. I think Carlton's got enough. They can nip the Suns. I don't think they have enough to beat the Doggies. So for me personally, I think the 8 is set. I think we have the 8 teams there. Placement may adjust, but I think the 8 teams that are there currently, I think are the 8 that we see fighting for the flag at the end of round 10.
Yep. But I agree actually. Yeah, having a look at seeing who's playing who in the last 2 rounds. Obviously, never say never, but yeah, I think Gold Coast will have to rely on some big factors, not just the destiny being in their own hands. So, but then it's the same with the doggies. They have to just keep winning, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the bottom half of the eight shape up. Melbourne and Brisbane both know that they just need to keep winning, and they'll get a top two spot. They're both a game clear. But yeah, how the rest of it shapes up is really up to who wants it the most now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I look, and actually in Collingwood's in there too. So the top three teams all have
yes,
28, but the percentage is what's changing. Brisbane's got that nice 243.8 percentage, Melbourne
yep,
224.1, Collingwood 192.4. So, I mean, the top three teams, again, I don't think you see a stumble by any of them. I think it'll come down to percentage. If you say come
yep.
down to percentage, you would almost lean that Brisbane most likely could be minor premiers just because again they're a team that put up big numbers. They're pretty solid defensively. But the fact that right now you have Adelaide Crows 4, Geelong Cats 5, Richmond 6, Kangaroos 7, Doggies 8. So let's have a little fun here. Matchups right now would be Doggies Lions, Roos D's, Richmond Collingwood, Cats Crows. I don't know about you, Nikki, but as a D's fan, are you at all concerned right now? You could be destined to play a team that has always played you tough in the Kangaroos. Are you at all concerned?
No, every game's always a concern. You just never know which team's gonna show up, but you have to, have belief in the side and know that they'll get through with the goods. It was a great game that we played North early in the season. We played them at the MCG, and they really took it to our girls, and it was a nail bite. I think we only won by a couple of points in the end,
Mm-hmm.
but I think our girls have improved a hell of a lot since that game, and yeah, it'll be quite interesting to see how it goes. So, yeah, really looking forward to whoever we play. It'll be a game of the finals, I'd imagine. So every team will give it their all. But yeah, no, I think that the D's have got the firepower. I'm not
It,
going to say that I'm 100% confident, but I'm not petrified of who we're going to face. So
I look at it that Collingwood Richmond game. If everything stays the same again, we've got 2 rounds of footy, things could change. But that Collingwood Richmond game, that's spicy. Like that would be the one I'm super looking forward to, of the
yeah,
first round matchups because I think you've got a couple of really good midfielders. I think that'll be a fantastic matchup. So, alrighty. So we jump from burning questions to, as I kind of told you pre-Mike, my team of the week and power rankings. I started doing this. I do this for the men's and I thought, you know what? I'm doing the women's. Why not? I really want to do this because I'm trying to learn the players a lot more. I haven't been as into the women's as much over the year. For the first few years, unfortunately. Again, my apologies to any AFLW fans. That is not personal. It is just convenience because the AFLW, the Watch AFL app wasn't always playing all the games at the time. So, in the last 3 seasons, I've watched every single game. I love the product. So I take pride in this, that I'm learning where these ladies are playing, what their strengths are, what their skills are. So this is my team of the week. So this is the best performances, defender, midfield, rock, and forwards from each. You all know that have watched, my criteria. So here we go, Nikki. Here is round 8. We start with the defenders. I always start with the defenders as a coach. As a coach, you'll probably agree with this. Defenses win championships. So, but I'm one of those with my criteria. Scoreboard impact is a huge thing. So there's going to be a few names that are going to throw some people off. So we start with Carlton's Karen Peterson kicking a goal in this game. She played really, really well for the Blues. I think she had a fantastic game for them. Norse Emma Carney, again, she's come from the midfield, goes to the halfback line, has been a wonder back there, has been a great head on her shoulders for that North halfback line. Essendon's Kat Phillips. She kicks 2 goals for the Bombers here again, makes a scoreboard impact. And I think really was one of the reasons that helped the Bombers get the win. GWS's Tarney Evans with a
mm,
fantastic goal for GWS in this game that I think really, really helped. And then I love this one. Hawthorne's Akek Makur Chut with a wonder goal in the game, also in that game with GWS. Those are my five defenders. In the midfield, this is always so tough because there's so many great performances in the midfield. I'm nitpicking sometimes with this. So Carlton's Mimi Hill, Brisbane's Sophie Conway, Adelaide's Chelsea Randall, North's Jazzy Garner, and this is not a homer pick. She kicked 2 goals, ladies and gentlemen. Sydney's Sophia Hurley are my five midfielders starting. Ruck, Bree Moody. Again, Carlton's Bree Moody has been fantastic in the ruck. Absolutely great season for her. Would not be surprised if she finds herself another All Australian ruck position this year. Forward, you kick 4 goals. You can't not be in my team of the week. Richmond's Courtney Wakefield. Essendon's Sophie Alexander and Daria Bannister. Melbourne's Eden Zanker and Melbourne's Taylor Harris round out the starters. And we go to the bench. Here's how I do my bench: defender, ruckman, midfielder, forward, and what I call utility. It's an open position. Anybody can get there. My defender, also from the Melbourne Demons, Shelley Heath, with an incredible game for her.
Mm-hmm.
The ruck, Olivia Fuller from the Geelong Cats. Midfielder, Collingwood's Jamie Lambert. Forward, Norse Alice O'Loughlin. And my utility, Richmond's Sarah Hosking. So that is my 21 team of the round. Nikki, what do you think?
Imagine that team running out to play against. My goodness.
Well,
Turn around and go home, wouldn't you?
and the scary part about it is, I said this earlier this year. I said, imagine a team that had Mon Conti, the Prasparkas sisters, and I can't remember who else was. There was one week I had both the Prasparkas sisters, Mon Conti, I think it was Jazzy Garner and Chelsea Randall. I said, imagine that midfield.
Wow. Yeah, goodness me. No, that sounds like an all-star lineup that you've got there this week. No, I absolutely agree. It is a joke that I have with a couple of Carlton supporters that I've always said Lozzie Pearce is the greatest AFLW ruck of all time. But yeah, no, Moody comes in a close second. But
I've always loved Lauren Pierce's game. I think
yeah,
sometimes she does the little things that aren't always statistical things. Then I think that she does. She's
yeah,
really good at shepherding. She's her disposal. She's really smart with it. I've always I thought at least one time over the last couple of seasons when Bree Moody did that, I honestly thought Lauren Pierce was the better rock personally.
yeah,
Again, I
yeah,
mean, it may not have been
but
statistically backed up. I mean, Bree Moody is a statistics absolute machine. I mean, she's always
yeah,
20 hit out. She's always getting 10 to 12 to 30 to 15 disposals. She tends to push forward and kick goals occasionally. So she puts up the stats that sometimes I
oh
don't
yeah,
think Lauren Pierce doesn't always get the same stat lines, but she just
yeah,
does the little things that I think a ruck sometimes doesn't always get credit for. So so
yeah.
I'm completely with you on that one. So we go to the power
No,
rankings for me, and anybody that's watched this episode, my power rankings haven't changed because my top five teams keep winning, and I'm one of those. I don't want to move you if you don't lose. So my five power rankings are as follows. As I said, I go by form. Collingwood still at 5, Brisbane still at 4, Melbourne still at 3. I'm sorry, Nikki. 2 is Richmond. Again, you got the second, and the Adelaide Crows are still. Actually, I forgot to change that. Oh my gosh, what the heck? Okay, let me on the run. Let me change this. Power rankings 1 through 5 because I forgot. Adelaide lost. I apologize for this. So Richmond 1, Melbourne 2, Brisbane 3, Collingwood 4, and number 5 North Melbourne. So we'll go that way. I forgot Adelaide. I totally forgot Adelaide lost this week. Nah, nah, nah.
he's so used to them winning.
There's an
That's
honor
why.
clanger. There's an honor clanger for me. I finally did one. I knew there was one time I would finally do that honor clanger. My apologies, fans, on that one. So that is a really quick off the top of my head power rankings for this. So let's jump to it. From the power rankings, we go to what I consider my favorite part, and that is tipping, because as much as we all think we're experts, this sometimes can be an adventure when it comes to tipping the competition. So let's jump right into it. First game of the round sees Adelaide v Geelong. Who do you like in this one, Nikki?
I think Adelaide playing at home. Adelaide will be too strong. Even with no Chelsea in the side, I think they'll have the depth to overcome the Cats. In saying that though, the firepower up forward for the Cats with some XDs in that lineup could be a challenge for them. So having Jackie Parry and Shirley Scott has really boosted their firepower up forward. And if teams are going to let Georgie Prasparkas run free like she did last weekend, then maybe an upset's on the cards. But the Crows for me.
I think the Crows just a little too deep. I think you may be
Yeah.
seeing Ebony Marinoff kind of try to put the clamps on a Georgie Prasparkas or an Amy McDonald a little bit. So I think the
Mm.
Crows a little too much, little too much experience. You've got a young, it's still a
Yeah.
relatively
Oh,
young
absolutely.
midfield for the Geelong Cats, and you've got a very smart, experienced. Again, I want to see just Chelsea Randall play because if she doesn't, I may
She's
lean.
out for 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, I may lean a
So
little bit more
yeah.
towards Geelong. I still think Adelaide. I still think Adelaide's a little too good, but I think it's a little bit
Yeah.
closer with Chelsea not being able to play. So I'm going
I
to take
think
the
this the
Crows.
scoreboard will be a lot closer without Chelsea out
I
there.
agree. I completely
Yeah.
agree with that. All right, so we jump up to Metricon Stadium as we kind of discussed a little bit earlier. Gold Coast v Carlton. Do we see the upset here, or do we have the Suns continuing to keep their chances of finals alive?
Oof. Nah. As much as we'd like to see the Blues get a win. Yeah, I think Gold Coast up there are going to be too strong. I think Carlton had their opportunities on Friday night and just couldn't hold on. So, yeah, Gold Coast mine.
Yeah, I like Gold Coast. I like Gold Coast in this one. I can't wait to watch Lauren Bellabry Moody, and that's going to be a
That's
fantastic
going to be a
ruck
great
matchup.
matchup. Yep,
That's going to be a lot of
absolutely.
fun. And then seeing how does Charlie Robot Amini Hill is going to be a fascinating matchup in the middle. And then
Mm.
where does Coach Harfit put Darcy Vesio? Do they put him back or do they put her forward? Or does he go forward with Darcy? So it'll be very fascinating to see where Darcy is on the field because
Yeah,
when they went back and played that halfback role, I think it really helped Carlton be able
yeah.
to repel off halfback and really,
Yeah,
really did a
which is
lot.
what happened in the match against St Kilda. So
Hmm.
I'd like to see Darcy have a bit of freedom, not necessarily at halfback because we know that they can get a score on the board, maybe at a half forward, pushing deep. And they got the likes of Jess Delpos and
Hmm.
Elise O'Day who can push forward and kick goals. So I think they need to find an anchor at full forward with
Hmm.
Phoebe McWilliams out. They can do that and get someone settled. Then they're in with more than half a chance to
Hmm.
to
Well, and
get that
Gab
win.
and Gab Pound's been able to go forward too. That kind of the
Yeah. Oh
flip
yes, of
between Darcy
course.
and Gab
Yeah.
I think has been a good move by Carlton's
Yeah.
coaching staff. I think that's been good, but I still think Gold Coast just a little too much. Jack Tapai and Courtney Jones have been really good up front, so they're going to be difficult to stop. I think there's just going to be a little too much firepower for Gold Coast over Carlton, but
Mm.
I think that's going to be a fantastic game. Cannot wait for this one. An absolutely tight matchup. This will definitely affect the eight. Collingwood v North Victoria Park. I like the
That's got to be
Pies in
match of
this
the
one.
round.
I like the Pies in this
Yeah.
one. I think a lot of people were looking at North, but I like the Pies. I think Sabrina Frederick, there's a lot of confidence coming into this Pies team. I think they're playing really good footy. Um, Again,
Yep.
this is their opportunity to stamp themselves in that top four. They're going to
Yep.
be top four and
Absolutely.
give themselves a really good opportunity of being in the flag hopefuls. So I like the Pies in this one.
Yep, agreed. I think the Pies will shut down any run that North have off the halfback. And if they can keep the ball away from Emma King, they'll they'll definitely get away with the win. Yeah, just the caliber of the Pies setup I just love watching them play.
Hmm.
You know, I often say that Sarah Rowe is my favorite Pies player and still is. But yeah, you know, watching them go about how they just apply the pressure and they hunt in numbers, and you know, if that's what you're doing every week, then you get cause those turnovers and get those forward flurries. So definitely the Pies for me at home.
Yeah, and I'm one of those. Maybe it's a little bit of a soft spot, but having the chance to talk with Steph Ghiocchi, I've found I have a tiny soft spot for the Collingwood Magpies a little bit because she was
She's a
absolutely
gem.
wonderful. Oh, she was
Yeah.
absolutely she was so kind with her time and so absolutely awesome. So when she had her 50th game and she kicked a goal, I made sure to reach out and to congratulate her on that. I think she's just an absolutely wonderful captain and a legend human being. So good luck, Steph. Go have some fun against North. I can't wait to watch you play. So up to Sydney Henson Park, Sydney v Fremantle. Nikki, can Sydney get their first win after the gutting loss, or does Fremantle ruin a chance to get the first ever win for the Swannies?
Pencil in the Swannies win this week.
Yay! I'm not the
They'll
only
get
one.
it done.
I'm not the only one because I looked at this in the tipping competition that I have pulled up that has each of the games. It has 86% Fremantle, but I go Fremantle is hurting injury wise. I know they have Kiera Bowers. I know they have Haley Miller, but Bridie Kennedy, keep an eye on her. She locked down Aaron Phillips. She got the matchup on Jazzy Garner, and she did very well. Both were unders on their disposals. So I think Bridie Kennedy gets the Kiera Bowers matchup, and I think she could at least even this game out. That I think
Yep.
Sydney's got a chance. I'm going to tip Sydney in this, and this is not my red hat coach has. This is I think Sydney, that game against Essendon gave them a ton of confidence. They're playing super well.
Agreed.
Last game in
Yep.
Sydney, Henson Park, I think you do well. I think Sydney gets the win here, which I think could be great for the competition. All the expansion teams get a win in their first season. We don't have a Richmond where it takes a second season before they get their first win. So cross my fingers that this happens for the ladies because they've done so well this year in trying times. Come on, Swannies. Okay, sorry. Red hat Donnie, take it off. All right. We jump out. Mineral Resources Park out west, West Coast Eagles, Western Bulldogs. I think doggies get this one. West Coast will make this a challenging game, but I think the doggies just a little too good.
Yep.
All righty. Skybus Stadium, Hawthorn v Brisbane. This can Beck Goddard pull the magic out? All right.
Oh,
Did we have a
sorry.
little bit of a
I
jinx? We
lost
had
you.
a little bit of
I
an internet jinx.
lost. I think so. Like, what was going on there? Yes, no, doggies for mine. I think you're right. I think it'll be a hopefully a close contested match for at least three quarters, but I think the doggies will prevail. They'll run over the top of West Coast, and I think experience will win out.
All right, doggies there up to over to Skybus Stadium. Hawthorn v Brisbane. Can Beck Goddard wave the magic wand and get a win for Hawthorn, or is Brisbane just too good?
I I'm a little scared of what this scoreline could potentially end up being. Um, it would be great if Hawthorn could keep up with the flag favourites, but yeah, no, I think the Brisbane side is just the program that they've got and the caliber of personnel that they've got. They're just going to be too strong for the Hawks this week.
I mean, it'd be great. It'd be great to see Beck Goddard pull another one out of her hat. But I think Brisbane just too good, just too strong on this one. So
As a D supporter, I would love to see that.
you never know. I mean,
Yes, please, Beck.
she's a coach.
No, you
She's a
never
great
know.
coach. She'll have she has an entire week to figure this out. I just think she just doesn't have the firepower. I think Brisbane's just a little too much. And Talia Hickey has been an incredibly good young ruck that I think is going to be the ruck of the future in the competition. The young, athletic, can get around the ground, do a little bit of everything. And I think she is a matchup nightmare. I don't think Hawthorne has anybody that's going to be able to stay with her. I think she could be a very damaging individual in this particular game. Brisbane, and I agree, I think Brisbane big, unfortunately. This is an intriguing one for me. RESA. If I can slow down, I can say it correctly. St. Kilda v Port Adelaide. I've thought about this one a couple of times as I look at this one. I've really thought, because I think Port Adelaide is starting to kind of find their form a little bit. They haven't always gotten the
Mm,
win, but they've been competitive. St. Kilda capitalized on Hawthorn and Sydney earlier this year. I'm gonna tip the Saints, but this is one I've bounced back and forth because I think Port is in this with a crack. I think the Saints win it, but I think this one is a dandy and it is close.
yep, I think this goes down to the wire. And if the Saints can hold their structure up forward and not push so far forward, they'll get the win. So a couple of times that's let the Saints down this season is that they get the ball, they push forward, and there's no one there. So Kate Shearer is killing it with the goal kicking this year. I think she's
Mm-hmm.
was up near the top of the goal kicking for this season. So for a team that's not necessarily getting the wins, she's doing what she can to get the score on the board. So she fires up, and Jacobson and a few others can nullify the Port forwards. I think the Saints can hold on for a win.
Yeah, be a big one there. All right, Mildura Sporting Project. Okay, did I precinct? My apologies. I can't read this morning. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Richmond VGWS. Such a talented midfield. I think Richmond's just got a little too much here. I think the Tigers get another win. They continue this win streak and continue their red
Yep.
hot form.
Yeah, I think so. They've hit form at the right time of the season, and yeah, I think they'll do very well against GWS. Although I reckon it'll be a closer game than most think.
I agree. I agree. I think GWS is in this to the end. This is one of those, can Richmond hold on? Because Cora Staunton
Yep,
is always a tough matchup. If she can get off the chain, it's going to be a long day for Richmond. If they can keep her contained, Richmond's got a good shot at winning this
yeah,
game. So you hate saying one player could
yeah,
affect it, but I mean, Cora Staunton is that is. I mean, she's the engine to this team. If they can get her
yeah,
going, it pulls the rest of the team along. If you
yeah,
can stifle her, that changes the game. And I know I'm going to get a
yeah.
biased answer on this one, and I don't think I mind in this situation. Casey Fields, Melbourne v Essendon.
Oh, yes, definitely the D's for me. Definitely the D's, and hoping for a big solid win to help with their percentage. But just happy for them to get the win will be good enough for me. So they've just got to keep winning, and Casey is their fortress, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason for it. So it's quite interesting watching opposition teams try to work out how to play Casey. The doggies tried a different way when we played them, and it didn't work. So
Mm-hmm.
let's see what the weather's like. They are predicting rain this weekend. So if there's rain predicted in Victoria, 99% of the time it's guaranteed to be at Casey. So it could be a factor in how the score is, but yeah, I still think the D's will get a pretty solid win.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you can somehow check Maddie Prasparkas out of the game, I think you can pretty much, and I hate using this, but it's very true. If you can, that's cutting the head off the snake. If you can
Yep.
take Maddie Prasparkas out of the game, I think you take away 80% of what Essendon kind of had a little bit. So I think the D's just too good, just too strong. And Essendon
Tyler Hanks on Maddie Prasparkas.
would, yeah,
That's my call.
oh yeah, wouldn't shock me a bit there. And this is an Essendon defense that they're vulnerable. They are gettable. I mean, Sydney showed it this last week, and Sydney
Yep.
is not a tenth of Melbourne's firepower up front. So this could be a long day for that Essendon defense, for sure. So
Mm.
will we see maybe one behind the ball just to kind of help out that defense a little bit by the Essendon coaching staff here? So D's just too good, just too
Maybe.
strong. We'll have to see. It's
Yeah.
there's tons of things that can be done on the board to maybe try to even this game out. We'll have to see, but Oh boy, it'll be it'll be a fascinating one down at Casey Fields. I agree. The weather, I think the weather will affect the scoring. I don't think it will affect the outcome personally. So there we
Mm,
go. 9 games tipped, 9 games down, round 9 to come. The season goes by way too darn fast, in my personal opinion. So we need to
it
get that
really does.
changed. The 10 game season is just too short. It's just too short. But beggars can't be choosers in this situation. We get another season. We get 18 teams. We get 9 games every week. So I will take it. Hopefully it changes soon, but we'll have to see. So, Nikki, thank you for joining me for this round review of round 8. It's been incredible to meet you in person. I know we've went through Allie Collette, who is an absolute marvel. I love her to death. So to be able to talk with her partner in crime, shall we say, online is absolutely
Her
fantastic.
birthday twin, she'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, no, most definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you too, Donnie.
Not a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, that is another AFLW round review. We will be back next week for round 9. We're getting closer and closer to finals. Keep an eye out here. Have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you again next week.